I landed in this country with $2.50 in cash and $1 million in hopes.
A young Italian immigrant said that about the day his ship reached Boston in November 1903. 17 years later, that same city was handing him $1 million a day. His name was Charles Ponzi, and the way he took the money never died. It just kept changing its name. This story is drawn from court records, bank examiner reports, and the Boston newspapers of 1920. Every figure you're about to hear is documented. Start with the arithmetic of a nobody. Ponzi arrives in 1903 with pocket change and spends 15 years failing upward through North America. A teller's job at a Montreal bank called Banco Zerosi, where he watches his employer cover old deposits with new ones and files the method away. A forged check for $423.58, 3 years in a Canadian prison, inmate number 6660. 2 more years in Atlanta for smuggling immigrants. By 1919, he is in Boston, married, broke, and 37 years old. And then a piece of paper crosses his desk, an international reply coupon, a little voucher the postal system used so a letter writer in one country could prepay return postage from another. Bought in Italy, where the currency had collapsed, it cost almost nothing. Redeemed in America, it bought full-price stamps. Ponzi did the arithmetic and saw better than 400% on paper. It was, technically, legal. It was also practically impossible. And he knew it before his first customer ever did, because you cannot ship warehouses of postal coupons across the Atlantic and turn them into cash. The post office won't redeem them for money. The idea was never the business. The idea was the story the business would wear. January 1920. The Securities Exchange Company opens at 27 School Street, Boston. The promise, printed and signed, 50% profit in 45 days. Double your money in 90. The first month, 18 investors hand him $1,800. And here is the machine in one sentence. The 50% he paid those 18 people came not from coupons, there were no coupons, but from the pockets of the people who came after them, robbing Peter to pay Paul, dressed as finance. Now watch the ladder. March, $25,000. May, $420,000. June, $2.5 million. By July of 1920, the line outside 27 School Street wrapped the block, and the money was approaching $1 million a day. Police officers invested. Priests invested. 3/4 of the Boston police force, by some accounts, had money with Ponzi. He bought a controlling stake in the Hanover Trust Bank. The man the banks once refused now owned one. He bought a mansion in Lexington. Reporters asked how it worked, and he smiled and pointed at the coupon. But the coupon could not survive arithmetic, and arithmetic is patient. A financial journalist named Clarence Barron sat down with the numbers and asked one devastating question. To cover the money Ponzi had taken in, how many postal coupons would need to exist? The answer? 160 million. The number actually circulating on Earth, about 27,000. The entire world's supply of his product could not cover one afternoon of his promises. On July 26th, the Boston Post began printing questions. Then Ponzi made the mistake of hiring a publicist, William McMasters, to calm the papers. McMasters looked at the books and found a man claiming $7 million in liquid funds who was actually millions in debt. On August 2nd, McMasters said so in print in the Post. The run began. For days, Ponzi stood on School Street serving coffee and sandwiches to the crowd demanding their money back, paying them with the deposits of investors who still believed. On August 9th, bank examiners found the accounts overdrawn. On August 11th, the Post published his Montreal prison record, the forger, the smuggler, inmate 6660. Hanover Trust was seized the same day. On August 12, 1920, Charles Ponzi surrendered to federal agents. The arithmetic of the wreckage: about $20 million taken, $250 million in today's money. Investors got back less than 30 cents on the dollar. 6 banks went down with him. He served 3.5 years on the federal charge, was convicted again by the state as, in the words of the statute, a common and notorious thief. And in 1925, out on bail between sentences, he did the one thing that tells you everything about the man. He went to Florida and started selling swampland. 200% in 60 days. Same machine, new story, under a borrowed name. Caught, convicted, he tried to flee the country as a deckhand and was pulled off the ship in New Orleans. Prison again. And in 1934, the United States deported him to Italy. His wife Rose stayed behind and divorced him. He drifted to Brazil, worked for an airline until the war took the job, translated documents, went partly blind, partly paralyzed. Charles Ponzi died in a charity ward in Rio de Janeiro in January 1949 with $75 to his name, enough, exactly, for his own burial. Near the end, a reporter found him, and he summed up his life's work without a gram of disguise.
My business was simple. It was the old game of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's the whole confession. And here is why this file stays open a century later. The scheme did not die in that charity ward. It runs today, in crypto exchanges, in investment clubs, in messages from strangers promising 50% in 45 days. The names change, the arithmetic never does. If the return sounds impossible, you are not the investor. You are the coupon. Next time, a man boards a plane over the Pacific Northwest with a briefcase and steps out of the back of it at 10,000 feet with $200,000 and no name. The only unsolved hijacking in American history. That file is next.